An East Tennessee woman is recovering after getting flesh-eating bacteria at the nail salon. What a doctor said made her more likely to get it, and her recovery so far.
A man is up for parole after poisoning his wife's toothpaste and trying to kill her. Why he argues he should be released, and why his ex says he belongs behind bars.
And experts say it is lice season. How different school districts across East Tennessee handle lice infestations.
10 News is brought to you in high definition exclusively by Harper Auto Square. WBIR 10 News starts now.
I had never heard of such a thing when they told me flesh-eating bacteria.
A Knoxville woman is still gaining back feeling in her hands after multiple surgeries to stop a flesh-eating bacteria in her system. She says she contracted it at a local nail salon. Now, anyone can catch an infection like this, but some are more susceptible than others.
We want to warn you, some of the photos we're about to show you are graphic. 10 News reporter Shannon Smith walks us through her story. Shannon.
Beth, Robin, these are Jane Sharp's thumbs. On the right, you see a normal thumb. On the left, this is her thumb after several surgeries to remove a flesh-eating bacteria. Sharp says going through this medical nightmare is changing her life in a lot of ways.
Jane Sharp is a mother, grandmother, and working woman.
As a dental hygienist, I entertain all the time, play cards.
Those things are a little harder to do now.
I can't shuffle cards when I play bridge.
For a while, she could barely use her right hand.
I couldn't even floss my own teeth.
Sharp is smiling now, but this spring she wasn't sure she'd still be alive. It started with a manicure at Jazzy Nail Bar in Turkey Creek.
While I was there, I got stuck on my thumb. And I went, ouch, but I went back to looking at my telephone.
Later that day, her thumb started throbbing, and then she couldn't sleep. She felt so sick. She thought it was the flu.
Flu test comes back negative, and I think you might be getting these symptoms from your thumb.
She was.
They had to open my hand up and my thumb up to clean the infection out.
It was necrotizing fasciitis, better known as flesh-eating bacteria. The images got even harder to look at from here.
The mortality rate can be up to 80% if it's not treated very promptly.
Dr. Udit Chaudhuri with Summit Medical is Sharp's doctor through this process.
She could have lost her finger, her arm, if she hadn't been diagnosed properly.
Sharp never thought something like this could come from a cut during a manicure.
I had never heard of such a thing when they told me flesh-eating bacteria.
Chaudhuri says this is very rare, but people with compromised immune systems are more likely to contract it. Sharp falls in that category.
She is a diabetic, so that made her more susceptible, yes.
She's gaining feeling back in her hand, but still has a long way to go.
My life took a total turn.
Now, I talked to a manager at Jazzy Nail Bar today who says they had a state inspection just days after Sharp reported this, and they passed with no issues. He says they clean their tools the way that the state mandates. Robin, Beth.
Shannon, thank you.
Another hot day. This is a look at your Alcoa Highway camera near the airport. We saw slightly cooler temperatures today, but still hot weather outside.
And no rain, for most of us at least. Chief Meteorologist Todd Howell is outside on the weather porch, at least enjoying these cooler temperatures, Todd.
Yes, and we certainly got a break from the heat today with temperatures in the 80s. You may have seen a few leaves falling off. Yeah, some of the trees, those leaves changing a little early, and some of them, due to the stress and the dryness, falling off the trees a little bit early. It's just kind of indicative of the dryness, early stages of some drought conditions. We'll talk more about that across East Tennessee coming up in a moment. But we did have good news, some cooler weather today due to the clouds and not quite as hot, and also a little bit of that cooler weather coming in from the east-northeast. So variably cloudy skies from Knoxville east, where temperatures are actually pretty comfortable right now, and west of Knoxville, a little bit more sunshine back toward Rockwood, Oak Ridge, and the Cumberland Plateau and Crossville, partly cloudy. But other than that, we are looking at the clouds above, and temperatures 80 degrees in Knoxville. I mean, we'll take that. That's close to our average high for this time of year of 81 as far as where we are right now. The dew point temperature 59 degrees, relative humidity 48%. So that drier air will continue to build in. clearing, cool nights and sunny, warm, but pleasant days ahead for the next couple of days. Fall-like weather ahead. Look at Bryson City, North Carolina, 74, 72 at Newport, 73 in Greenville. We're still a little warm, Oak Ridge and Lenoir City and Sweetwater, low to mid-80s, 78 in Crossville. But look at the 24-hour temperature change. We're 9 degrees cooler right now compared to the same time yesterday in Knoxville. And yes, some of that cooler air flowing in from the east. All right, coming up, we'll talk about, though, when is our next chance for rain, as we certainly need it. Live from the Channel 10 Weather Porch, back inside to you, ladies.
All right, Todd, thank you.
Okay.
I ask you, please do not grant Fred Wortman parole. I am also speaking for his youngest victims, my children.
That's a mother of 3 pleading to keep her ex-husband who tried to kill her behind bars. Fred Wortman had a parole hearing in Morgan County today. He pleaded guilty to trying to kill his wife 3 separate times.
And one incident, the former attorney put poison in his wife's toothpaste. 10 News reporter Cole Sullivan has the emotional parole board testimony today. Cole.
Robin, Beth, there was testimony both for and against his release. Wortman's mother and sister say he's thoughtful and kind-hearted. His ex-wife painted a very different picture of the man who tried to kill her. 1 vote down, 3 to go.
My recommendation today is to decline your parole.
Stacey Jones is facing her now ex-husband for the first time in years and celebrating as one parole board member votes to keep him behind bars.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
Fred Wortman is here at the Morgan County Correctional Complex.
I live with this burden daily, Your Honor.
Serving time for trying to murder his wife and then trying again and again.
Just unbelievable.
Wortman, a trained attorney, first tried to hire a hitman. Then he poisoned his wife's toothpaste with wolfsbane.
Lack of concern for my children, our children. He knew the toothpaste was the same tube my daughter and I shared.
He didn't give up, even from jail. Wortman offered an inmate his 1998 Tennessee football championship ring in exchange for killing Jones.
My weaknesses back then have and continue to chill me to my core.
At the hearing Thursday, he apologized to his family.
At some future time, if circumstances allow, I hope to be able to reestablish a healthy and positive relationship with my 3 precious children.
Wortman's mother spoke in support of his release.
His actions and this situation does not reflect the person, the true person that he is.
But Jones, an East Tennessee native who now lives near Memphis, isn't buying it. She's glad one parole board member voted against release for 7 more years.
That was a goal of mine for my kids to be over 18, and so that they're never forced into a relationship with him, but they can choose.
In the coming days, at least 3 other parole board members will review his case. It takes 4 votes out of 7 to grant him parole or to keep him behind bars. Robin, Beth.
Thank you, Cole.
The FBI and KPD are searching for a man wanted on drug charges. A grand jury indicted Malone Tyrone Prater earlier this month for conspiracy to possess with the intent to distribute crack cocaine. The FBI is offering a $1,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. You can call the FBI at the number on your screen.
Well, the Knoxville City Council plans to vote next week on a request for the mayor to ban gun shows on taxpayer property. A ban would specifically affect Chilhowie Park in East Knoxville. It's hosted gun shows for several decades and has a show coming up this Thanksgiving weekend. We turn now to 10 News reporter Jim Matheny. And Jim, the City Council vote will not affect the gun show in November.
Yeah, that's right, Robin. The contract for this year, it's already signed, so this would be something that could take effect in 2020. Now, we spoke to City Council members, and 7 out of 9 support asking the mayor to look at stopping gun shows on city property. And this is something that will ultimately be up to the mayor to put that ban into effect. But come next year when this could go into effect, Knoxville will have a new mayor. It's either going to be India Kincannon or Eddie Manis. Now, I spoke to both of them this afternoon, and they both agree the gun show should not be held on taxpayer property, especially in a part of town that struggles with gun violence.
The people, particularly in East Knoxville, and they say that the #1 concern on their minds is gun violence.
You know, it doesn't matter how you feel about guns, but it's being done on taxpayer property, and that community does not want it there.
Now, someone who does want it there is Rex Curley in Iowa. He owns RK Shows. and told me he paid a lot of money about a dozen years ago to buy that gun show at Chilhowie Park. He says this is discrimination and also called it a slippery slope for lawsuits, saying he hopes it doesn't come to that. Curley also said no one from the city has contacted him about this issue. Robin.
All right, Jim, thank you. New at 6, the Carson-Newman University football team is honoring the wife and child of an assistant athletics trainer. They were killed when police say a driver intentionally hit them. This happened back in June. The driver is facing 3 murder charges for driving into 61-year-old Tillman Gunter, 30-year-old Sierra Cahoon, and her 2-year-old son, Nolan. Her husband is an assistant athletics director at Carson-Newman. The university's football coach says they want to honor the Cahoons because they are all family.
He's a part of our family, and anytime we have somebody in our family that's hurting, we certainly want to let them know that we love them and care for them, and in some small way know that we're honoring them and remembering them.
The team will wear stickers on their helmets all season long.
Experts say it's lice season. We've seen hundreds of comments online asking about policies on head lice at local schools. A lot of parents are upset that kids with lice aren't immediately sent home from school. The State Department of Health says it doesn't have a statewide head lice policy, but it does provide school districts with a list of guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control. Those guidelines say it is not necessary to remove a student from class because they have lice. Instead, they recommend the child be treated at home at the end of the day, then return to school once treatment has begun. Anderson County Schools says if a nurse finds lice on a student, the student's parents are notified and they are encouraged to start treatment when the child gets home from school. Their policy is based off the CDC guidelines.
It says that students are not to be excluded from class for head lice because the CDC says that head lice is not something that carries diseases. So we contact the parents, we send some educational materials home, and we let the parents know, we try to educate them and help them with treating their child.
Head lice policies across East Tennessee are all different. Cumberland County School Board policy says it removes students with lice from class and isolates them from other children. Knox and Sevier counties follow the CDC guidelines, and Blount County says it uses a common sense approach. Now, we have a list of all the policies and how they differ online now at WBIR.com and in the WBIR app.
Gatlinburg is considering banning electric scooters. A spokesperson says City Commission passed an ordinance that would ban using scooters. Gatlinburg Police Chief Randy Bracken says the scooters could create hazardous conditions on sidewalks. He says the ban is in the interest of public safety. That ordinance still has to pass City Commission once again.
Well, finding ways to win impossible games, how Jeremy Pruitt says Florida has done that this season, and what he says Tennessee needs to do to beat the Gators.
And celebrating Hispanic heritage in East Tennessee with art. How Morristown is using a mural to bring people together and celebrate diversity.
Finally, some cooler weather, how long it will stick around, and where East Tennessee stands in the newest drought monitor.